Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast, where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture. We talk to producers all over the country, from small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations. Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades, we hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs. Here's your host, Troy McClung.
Well, it's Pastured Pig Podcast time again. So glad you all decided to listen to yet another episode. Quick updates that we have going on here at Red Tool House. Really just getting ready for winter, trying to prepare for the cold weather that's coming. I've got a project, as all of us do. We always have projects to work on, but building out a farrowing barn. So probably this week we'll be making a lot of sawdust fly on the mill. One of my sons and I, we skidded logs last weekend. We put a bunch of Virginia pine on the ground. I think we have about 15 good saw logs to try to mill up this weekend in preparation of using that for the stall walls and siding of our farrowing barn, which is currently just a roofed shed right now, what I would call the tractor shed, where we used to park the tractor. So that'll be the task at hand. A lot of work going on there. Well, before we get into our interview, I just wanted to ask you all. I appreciate the reviews and the comments that we've gotten so far. But if I could trouble you all to go give us a review, give us a rating. If you don't have time to write a review, just give us a rating. I think right now we've got about 20 ratings. I'd love to see us get to 50 by the end of the year if possible. That would obviously help people find out more about us and pop up on other people's radar. I'd love to have people learning more about pastured pigs from you all, and not just us that are obviously directly related to the business. It would be neat to find some of the fringe people that are maybe more homesteading or small farming, but they just don't see the benefits of pastured pigs yet. So that would be a good way for people to find out more about us. So please, if you don't mind, go to whoever you're using for your podcast feed, give us a review, give us a rating. That would really help. Okay, tonight we have Chris Matthews from Coyote Creek Ranch, and he's down in Missouri. And Chris has an interesting story, as all of us do. He's dealing with 20 acres of really rough ground, a ground that has no topsoil. And he's using polyculture with his livestock to really build soil. And it's neat to hear him talk about that. I think he's got a good plan going on there. So we're going to dive in and let Chris tell his story. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast. I am so glad people take the time to listen, and I really appreciate all the feedback we've been getting these recent episodes. Tonight I have another good guest. No surprise. Just hitting home runs every single time I get somebody on here. So good stuff here. Tonight I have Chris Matthews from Coyote Creek Ranch in Missouri. So welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Troy.
All right. Well, I'm glad you could join us in Missouri. That's an hour behind me, I believe it. Are you guys Central Time?
Yes, we're Central Time.
Okay, all right. So how are things in Missouri right now? Are they wet, hot, dry, or cold?
Well, we got a little bit of rain yesterday, and it kind of helped things cool off because it was hot and humid before that.
Yeah. We're finally getting rain after a long dry spell, so we appreciate that. All right, well,
definitely.
Well, give me and my our listeners here a kind of a 40,000-foot elevation view discussion of your farm. What's going on there at Coyote Creek?
Well, we've actually started this about 3 years ago with Nubian dairy goats and then Berkshire show pigs, and then transitioned into the pastured pig and private label in our meat. And we also do pasture-raised chicken, eggs, and Katahdin hair sheep to sell lamb as well. On 20 acres here in the Ozarks in Stover, Missouri.
Okay. That's a pretty eclectic variety of animals you have there.
Well, I had the Nubian dairy goats for years and showed them, and the dream was to have a creamery, and we hopefully will someday, and make artisan goat cheese and whatnot. And my fiance Connie, she had the Berkshires as 4-H show pigs, and so we just kind of blended families together and blended animals together, and
there you go.
It's taken off from there.
All right. So what's your experience, both of you, what experience do you all have in farming prior to this?
Well, believe it or not, I was actually raised in Kansas City, Missouri. Always been into horses and cattle. Bought a horse before I bought a car when I was 16. Got out of school, went to MU for animal science. Went out west, worked on big ranches that most people just can't fathom how big they were. 2, 3, 4 million acre type big. Kind of got burnt out on that and come back to Missouri because I had a daughter, and we wanted to be closer to parents, for grandparents to help raise the kid and stuff like that. So anyway, that's what brought me back here to Missouri, and then I worked on so I had managed and was cow boss or whatever at various ranches and whatnot, and then a lot of farming back here in Missouri, obviously, and I got onto a 2,000 sow strictly farrowing operation. We shipped about 800 to 900 baby pigs a week that I managed it, had 15 employees underneath me, and we also farmed and had cattle and stuff, but that was about the time that Connie and I got together, and she'd always, like I mentioned before, always had the 4-H show pigs and with her kids, and that kind of set the ball rolling, really. We had a really good, she always had Berks from a local breeder that was close by that she got her show pigs from, and we had one that we did really good with at county fairs and state fairs, so we kept it, decided to breed it, and I went to a intensive grazing school for my place because this farm we had purchased had been really overgrazed by commercial cattlemen and just stripped it bare. It was basically bare dirt and rocks. So, but the only thing we grew were rocks and acorns, so what better for pigs and goats, really?
Right, exactly.
So we, that's kind of what started us down the regenerative ag path and holistic management and all that. And because I definitely didn't like the looks and protocol of a confinement pig operation.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just kind of what got this all started. We bred that first sow and then got invited to a farmer's market when I was, ironically enough, at the intensive grazing school for the NRCS. The guy that we toured his farm said, "We need you at the farmer's market. We don't have a pork guy." So that's kind of what really jump-started it all, and been doing it for 3 years now, and so here we are.
Yeah. Now, so are you doing this full time? Are both of you full time, or do you have all farm jobs?
Ironically, I'm doing it full time, but I have an off farm job as well. But the off farm job is another farm doing the same thing that raises grass fed cattle, pastured poultry, and lamb. Just on a lot bigger scale than us. So.
That's cool. So you can obviously practice what you learn in both areas there, I assume then. Right, yeah. Okay. So sounds like Connie brought the love of the Berkshire with her. So is that why you guys decided to go into Berkshire? And it's my understanding, looking at your website, you guys have your Berkshires registered?
Yeah, we do. It was kind of a convenience thing for her because we had another local breeder in the next town over that had Berks. But I'm kind of a numbers and performance guy, So when I really got into it and started studying, because she had showed spots and a few crossbreds and stuff as well, but when I really started studying it and researching it, the Berks were that closest in between of a heritage breed that had the data to back them up. So, the numbers are there for me.
As far as you're saying, as far as yield and production and feed conversion, all that's what you're looking at.
Right, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
But then still an old time. I think the Berks are the oldest breed in. If I remember my facts right, there somebody will probably fact check me and correct me, but I think they're the oldest registered breed in America anyway. But
okay.
Yeah, so I can go back and use a little bit of English blood, old English blood lines with the modern show lines and the meat quality lines, and just a nice blend of it all, and still have EPDs and pedigrees there to back everything up. So,
yeah. Do you see? So not only for just what you get as far as quality goes, do you see that? Does that resonate more with your customer base, or do you see other benefits from that?
Yeah, definitely. We first with the customer base, I have them come back to me all the time and tell me my pork chops, eat like a ribeye steak or something, or it reminds them of the pork they had that their grandpa raised, type thing.
Yeah.
And then we kind of back it up, because like we enter the carcass quality contest at the Missouri State Fair and kind of showing there. Next year, I'm hoping to have a progeny pen with the Burke Association for my boar, to get some numbers and hard data there too. So, but yeah, the definite ultimate to me is what the customer has to say about it, and so that's been going good. So we're happy with that.
Excellent. Well, how many hogs do you all usually finish a year?
Well, let's see. The first year, I think I only did 15 or so. Our numbers have been slow because we did have other off-farm jobs, and just the two of us getting together, kind of starting over from scratch. So the numbers, we haven't had real fast growth. Plus, I've really, I cull really hard. So we take it to show pigs. If a bloodline doesn't work, or especially if she doesn't have the maternal traits, which I've really found that a lot of the show lines don't have because they don't know how to raise them outside of a crate. So the first year, I think we fattened and finished about 15 pigs, and then about 30 last year, and probably 40, 45 this year. And next year, we're maybe looking, I'll be running just 5 sows, so I'm looking maybe 70, 80 hogs next year.
That's a good number. All right.
So it's definitely been slow compared to some of the guys, like my buddy Brian Rogers down in Arkansas. I know he really jumped up in about the same time, but
yeah. Brian is taking it on. I don't know when he sleeps, because he's taking it on like crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure what I do either, but I know the feeling. So, but yeah, well, I'm just, like I said, I'm a numbers guy, so I'm kind of slow and meticulous, and it pays off for me. We've done well with our dairy goats because of that, stuff like that, and we've done pretty good with the Berks too, on the show side and the meat side. So,
okay. Now, do you with all that different livestock variety you have, are you grazing all those separately? Do you have any overlap, any integration there?
Well, we do, try to do management intensive grazing. So I run the pigs in first on like a 1/4 acre paddock, let them kind of tear it up, root it up, and then I'll go back in and either plant some annuals or some perennial cover crops to get some grazing for the dairy goats, trying to build some soil and stuff like that. So we kind of go behind that. The Katahdin sheep are on a separate farm that I lease, so it's just the goats and pigs, and then the chicken tractors that we run in behind the goats, or even in my front yard, trying to have a decent yard to mow instead of mowing rocks.
I've done the same thing.
But yeah, sometimes like my breeding bucks for the Nubians, they'll run with the pigs, or I'll run some little feeder pigs with some young goats or something like that. So they'll overlap a little bit, but other than that, we kind of keep things separate, and sows definitely stay separate. The feeders stay in a separate paddocks and rotate around. So.
Yeah. So how are you doing with your feed? Are you using a free choice feed? You ration? You supplement?
I hand mix all of. We're strictly non-GMO, antibiotic-free. It's the label claims that we make on our USDA-inspected meat. So we go in and hand mix our rations, so I can formulate each ration to, weight class of pig and whatnot. And I like to. It creates more chores for me, but I like to hand feed every day. It keeps the pigs coming to me, keeps them gentle. One reason we still show, because then all of my sows have been handed, and the kids can go out and play with them because they're show pigs, so they kind of all know their name and come by their name and like being scratched and stuff. And but even the feeders we hand feed, because it just keeps them coming to us and makes rotating them through the paddocks easier, and kind of keeps them gentle for a low stress free handling.
Wow. Okay. So next year when you get to 80 hogs, what does hand feeding 80 hogs look like?
Looks like I'm going to maybe fatten some and sell some feeders, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. At my off farm job per se, I hand feed about 10,000 chickens every day, pastured chickens every day. So it looks like lots of fill-in buckets with feed is what 80 pigs look like. But
yeah.
I'll stagger them out through the year. We'll have a couple sows bred for show pigs for the kids, and then kind of wait, for some March and April litters, and so they'll kind of be staggered out through the year. So
yeah. So you had mentioned that the farm that you purchased had some maybe had a rough life prior to you all getting it. Explain that a little bit, if you would, in a little more detail, and the challenges that you faced with the soil quality and issues there.
Well, it's 20 acres. I have 3 acres of open pasture. The house and yard, if you will, sits on about 2 acres. So I've got about 15 acres of strictly trees, oak, hickory, good mass type trees that obviously the pigs like the stuff in the fall. But the neighbor, the guy who owned it before, had rented it to the neighbor, and he was a big commercial cattle guy and not real well known for taking care of pastures. So stripped it to bare dirt. Even the trees had a browse line, as high as the cows could reach.
Yeah.
And then so I was fighting erosion problems, stuff like that. So we rented it for a year, so I couldn't do much with it then. And then I went ahead and purchased the farm. And I kind of pulled the permaculture attitude, if you will. So I just sat back for a year, really 2 years since we rented it for a year, but and just kind of watched it and followed its nuances and stuff, and seen where I needed to do what with. So then this last year we come in and really started the rotational grazing and planting some cover crops and turnips, ryegrass, alfalfa, hairy veg, stuff like that would work both good for the pigs and the goats.
Mm-hmm.
Help build the soil and bring it back. And it's even within that year's time, I've seen some improvements because I've got a lot of mushrooms coming back that I didn't even have the first 2 years.
Oh yeah.
So I'm seeing some life again. So we can go out and harvest some, some morels and some, the bright orange ones. The name slips me now.
Okay.
Chanterelles.
Yeah, chanterelles. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're seeing some stuff coming back, and it's kind of exciting to watch. So.
Yeah, and I assume with since you're doing the rotational process with the multi species there, you're getting some good soil building as well as you rotate through.
Really stop the soil erosion and kind of developed a little bit of a spring. We kind of have a dry weather creek but it's got a little bit of spring, and now it's flowing a lot better now. So
that's amazing. That's something that's always fascinated me is looking at regenerating some of these dry areas simply through soil quality and just holding the water on the property longer there. So being in the Ozarks, I assume your topography is pretty hilly.
It is. We're being 20 acres. I'm not too extreme from one end to the other in elevation, but I do have a couple of good draws, and like I said, I do have the one creek going through it, but it presents a little bit of challenges and in fencing and runoff and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, I know what that's like. Yeah, we have similar topography here in West Virginia, and I always joke that my pigs have 2 legs longer than the other because everything's on a slope.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So with that water, now that you're getting that creek going and you have access to that, are you incorporating that water into your infrastructure? Do you well? Do you irrigate? How do you take care of your pigs on your pasture?
Well, our water right now is strictly well water. Like I said, the creek is just kind of a real small dry weather creek with a real small spring in it, and I'm kind of trying to fence them out of it to keep it clean until I can kind of get things growing back and it flowing a little better. The one big challenge that we have is with our well water. It's extremely hard water. So to kind of help counteract that, I feed a lot of apple cider vinegar to everything.
Yeah, okay. How are you dosing that? Are you just incorporating that into their water troughs, or are you mixing it in feed?
I've done a little bit of both. I've kind of found that the water's a little bit easier to do it. I just go along and, get a tote of the apple cider vinegar, and then when we fill their waters up, we just, dump so many cups per gallon of water type thing, and that's just helped around with everything. And something else we've been doing that I've noticed a lot that I don't see a lot of guys doing, especially the pigs, is it's kind of well known in the dairy goats, is we feed a lot of kelp. And I've been incorporating the kelp into my rations and seeing a big difference in the pigs too, and their performance. So
where are you seeing that show up? Is that health? Is that weight gain? Is that other benefits?
Well, weight gain, just general bloom, if you will, on them. Their hair coats are better. They're shinier. A little bit, I haven't really. We just started that this year, and with this new bloodline, so we're going to kind of see if it helps fertility any. It definitely does in my dairy goats with the extra minerals and whatnot of it, and it's also helped with. I know a lot of guys are going to try to call me out on this, but it's helped with my parasite load.
Okay.
Kelp being kind of high in iodine, and if you look at the iodine on the periodic table, it's kind of right in line with all those. And I'm drawing a blank here on them, but I listened to another podcast with Dr. Paul up in Wisconsin. He's real big on tinctures and organics and works a lot with organic valley dairies.
Mm-hmm.
And he can explain it better than I can, but so yeah, we've seen a lot, like I said, a lot lower parasite loads in the pigs and the goats with feeding that kelp, and of course the rotational grazing helps and whatnot too. And
yeah, so with that kelp, is that something you're just buying in bulk from your local feed mill, and as you said, you're mixing your own, so you're incorporating that in, or is that something you have to specialty source?
Yeah, no, my local feed store has it, and they order it in for me in 50-pound bags, and I mix. It's no big secret. I mix about 5 pounds to 100 pounds of feed, so
yeah.
Just kind of as a general mineral supplement,
And then I have to ask, just because of curiosity. So you're buying apple cider vinegar, and you said a totes. Are those the 250, 275 gallon totes that you're buying that, and that size?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course when we started off doing it, we ran to Walmart or the local bulk store and was buying it in gallon jugs, and
right.
then one place had it in 5-gallon jugs, and then I finally found it in like 55-gallon drums or 250-gallon totes from a mineral supplier that I'm using for the goats, and they had it, and it's a lot cheaper to buy it that way.
Yeah, I bet. And you probably have a lot of IBC totes laying around that you can use for other things.
Yeah.
That seems to be the Homestead staple. Everybody have to have at least 5 of them, even if it's just outside for your garbage collection.
Sure.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your sales. So obviously, you quite a variety of protein you're selling there, but even the volume with your pork and your chickens and everything. How did you get started with the retail side of that, and explain the growth that you've experienced over the 6 years?
Well, we've started, like I said, about 3 years ago is when we started really private labeling the meat. At a local farmer's market, and it kind of, fortunately for us, even though I'm smack dab in the middle of Missouri in a little podunk town, the farmer's market we sell at is at Lake of the Ozarks, so it gets a lot of lake traffic, if you will, from Kansas City and St. Louis. So we do pretty good there. That's what got the ball rolling. We did a couple other local farmers markets. They weren't as good for us, so we kind of dropped out of them. But we have gotten into a couple restaurants in St. Louis. We have a health food store in a local town, just east of us, that carries our pork and chicken. And we have another. It's kind of ironic. It's another little podunk, hole-in-the-wall town convenience store, but she sells a ton of pork for us because she's right beside a Missouri State Park where lots of campers come.
Oh, yeah.
So she moves a lot of pork for us. And then we now have a website through, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, through Gray's Cart that we use. And sell off of there quite a bit. So that's kind of where the main sales have come from.
Okay.
Really.
So how with your sales, how are you handling distribution? Are you all trucking on a regular basis to these places, or are they coming to pick up? You mentioned St. Louis and some of these other areas, so that's some distant ground to cover.
Right. We've got, Connie is now staying home full time to work on the farm, and then she also makes scones that she supplies to about 5 coffee shops in the area.
Okay.
So, like once a week, she delivers those and makes meat deliveries, and about every other week we go to St. Louis or Kansas City to make our deliveries there as needed. So.
Okay. So to handle this demand that you have, are you all processing all at once and then maintaining frozen storage on farm? Or are you doing rotational processing so you can keep from housing as much on farm?
Well, we do kind of a rotational processing where I'll take in 3 or 4 pigs at once, and then about 4 weeks later, 3 or 4 more, sometimes more, sometimes 5 or 6, just whatever's ready. And then the first batch will be ready. That meat will be ready to pick up. So that way I can kind of kill two birds with one stone, because our USDA processor is about an hour and a half away, which isn't too bad.
Yeah.
And they handle the pork and the lamb and the goat that we do. The chickens are actually done by a local Mennonite processor here that's just 10 miles away, so that's really handy there. Mm-hmm. But we do maintain cold storage in the next big town that's about 30 minutes away. So we have cold storage there in those freezers, and then we have a lot more freezers here at the house than my fiance would like. Because we kind of pull out of cold storage, go into those freezers to, go to the farmer's market or fill orders and whatnot. So it's a little bit of both. It'd be nice if we could get a walk-in freezer here or something and just do it all right here off farm.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. Do you see, and again, you don't have to get into specific numbers because I know it'll vary all across the country anyway, but do you see that your cold storage, is that really an ends to justify the means, or is it actually the best route to go economically right now?
Well, it's really not bad. Again, it's no big secret. I pay $30 a month and have 2 pallets worth of meat in there. So
wow.
I don't think I could run, that many freezers to store that much meat for $30 a month.
Yeah.
So, other than just having to make a trip during their business hours, which, can be inconvenient sometimes, but
yeah, that's not bad.
Other than that, it's not bad.
I've got an 8x8 walk-in that costs me about $150 a month in electricity to run, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, I think we've got the cold storage, and then I've got 7 freezers here at home. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm not.
Well,
I don't.
Looking at your process, let's talk about your processor for a little bit, and just spend a little time talking about your private labeling. So, what all does that entail for you in Missouri to take that and get it private labeled? Is that just a simple request, and they just slap a separate label on?
Well, since we do have a lot of lake traffic, people that have lake houses, they actually come from Illinois, from Iowa, from Kansas, out of state. So we go to the USDA, and then of course USDA, if you make any label claims, you've got to do 14 hours of paperwork protocol for any claim you make. So, excuse me, like I said, we're 100% antibiotic free. And then we also make a label claim of 100% Berkshire, which is another reason I don't register my feeders per se, but all my gilts are registered that we keep for breeding, and then of course the boars, and we do a lot of AI and stuff. So I can prove parentage on everything.
Yeah.
So we make that label claim. So like I said, it required I had to sit down and write out my protocol. If an animal did need doctored, if I had to give it antibiotics, what I did with it. And, even all my feeders, even though they're not registered, they are ear notched per the Burke Association, the standard ear notch system. So I can identify them. They get pulled out if I do have to treat something with antibiotics, which is pretty rare, but, then I'll either eat it or, give it to my mom or something like that. And Merry Christmas, Mom.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But other than that, it wasn't too bad. It's just kind of keeping up with that then. And if you ever switch processors, you kind of got to go through the whole ordeal again. Mm-hmm. But then this one's been pretty good. Your standard headache like you have with any processor occasionally.
Right. Yeah.
But they're real good. They really work with me. Most all of our sausages use organic seasonings and whatnot, no preservatives. I'll be honest, I haven't gone the whole non-GMO verified yet. that costs a lot of money, and I just can't pencil it out and justify it yet.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
We're kind of like Joel Salatin. We have an open door policy where they can come tour the farm anytime, and we have given several farm tours. And I'll show them the feeds, and I'll show them the labels where the feed's all non-GMO certified. So I just felt like I didn't have to shell out the money to get that little label on my label, you know, that little stamp on my label.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, like you say, weighing those costs against the benefit, and of course that's something that's going to have to be passed on to the customer, so it just drives prices up there.
Right, and we try to keep I think I'm kind of on the low side of prices, really, compared to some of the guys I see. But I try to do that by the pasture and mixing my own rations to help keep feed costs down and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So
looking at your web store with the selection, so it looks like your processor offers a large variety of finished cuts and a lot of value added cuts. Is that something they have always done, or have you worked with them to be able to provide that? Are you having to go to other processors for some specifics there?
No, they're really good about that. I think about 60-70% of their business is private labeling. Anywhere from sheep, lamb, pigs, even bison. They have a producer, I think he comes from Nebraska, trucks his bison all the way down here.
Wow.
For private labeling and stuff. So they offer lots of brats, lots of different sausages. We did have one little issue where they quit using the organic seasoning mix that I used because the price got too high, and I said, I called them up and said, hey, Glenn, what's the deal here? Well, that stuff got really expensive. And I'm like, I don't care. Will you buy it for me? And, then it's exclusively mine, and you bet. So he took care of me and, bought that organic seasoning mix for my breakfast sausage, and away we went. So
yeah, that, like you say, that's great to have that relationship with your processor, and y'all work together to overcome and as you build that relationship, he understands more of what you need and where you're coming from, and vice versa.
Right, and and we'd have some odds and ends cuts that, like our bacon's ends and pieces. You can sell them for seasoning and stuff so much for green beans and whatnot, but they kind of start piling up after a while. So I called him up and said, what can we do with all this? Is there something else? And he's like, why don't you make a pork burger with, bacon in it, basically, with kind of bacon bits, so to speak. So
I saw that on your website. Yeah, that was intriguing.
Yeah, and it's gone over really good.
I bet. Sounds delicious.
It's kind of like a bacon cheeseburger all ready to go. Just add the cheese.
Good deal.
And it gets rid of an odd and end cut that's kind of hard to move. So
yeah, so he just mixes that into his grind when he's processing your ground pork.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, I noticed your site, you're using Gray's Cart to handle your online store and your farm information there. So how long have you been using that, and what's your experience with that? Is that something you've been impressed with?
We started, we're still kind of learning and figuring it all out. We started that maybe last winter sometime, maybe just 6-7 months ago. Mm-hmm. Definitely been kind of slow. It just didn't, explode and open the world to us like one might think. We definitely found you still have to do your marketing, and we follow we kind of follow their lead, and Connie's getting ready to take their little business farm class that they have. We follow Charlotte Smith. She's another real good one that's on the marketing side of this, farm to table stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Gray's Cart's helped. and just the biggest thing is just reminding people that it's there, and, getting them to go to it and order off of it instead of, say, Amazon or something now, or Walmart or whatever,
Right. Yeah. All right.
So
does that help you when you do your farmer's market? Does it have a point of sale interface with it, or is it just strictly for web sales?
No, it does actually, because we've had a lot of our regulars at the farmer's market kind of go through it and start pre-ordering, and then they just come pick up at the farmer's market to ensure they get everything they want.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like, bacon's a big hot seller, and it's not pork related, but chicken breast is another one. So that stuff normally sells out pretty fast at farmers markets. So if somebody can't get there till noon when we're about to close and I'm sold out of that, they can pre-order it, and I set it aside and have it bagged up, ready to go, and a lot convenient and handier for them.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, Chris, looking ahead, what do you see? What's your short-term and long-term goals? What do you see for Coyote Creek 5 years down the road?
Well, hopefully build it up big enough for my new grandson that he's got something to go to when he grows up.
There you go. Legacy building. I like
it. Well, like I mentioned before, I mean, the ultimate goal that I kind of had years ago was to build the creamery, and that's definitely going to happen. But that even plays a part into the pigs, because we do feed a lot of the goat milk to the show pigs and to the weaner pigs and stuff when we first wean them and help transition them. So the dairy and creamery is definitely in the works, and I don't know where the expansion's going to go. I'm just kind of taking it slow day by day, and trying to make the best pork chop I can out there. So I can't say that we'll have 100 sows in 5 years, or we'll still only have 5 or 10, but
right. All right.
Definitely, hope to get where both of us can stay home completely here, and don't have the off-farm jobs, and then maybe even, bring in one of our kids or something once they get out of school and pass it on to them. So. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, I like that. I like that vision, looking that far ahead and just seeing what the potential, the possibilities are as it grows. Well, all right. Well, Chris, one question I ask everyone on the podcast, and you'll be no different, is what is your best experience or your favorite part about raising pigs on pasture?
Well, I guess pigs, being honest, when I was cowboying out on the ranches, pigs always had a bad rap. And, they had this stereotype that they were dirty, dumb, stinky animals. And now that I'm out here with them, raising them on pasture, I can see where they're not. They're very smart. They're a tool, and that tool used properly can really rebuild this ground quick. So it's just every day I learn something new from them. I enjoy them, watching what they're helping me with the land and rebuilding it, and and then laying down in the barn. If you've been on my Facebook page, there's a video of me laying down in the barn with the show pigs climbing all over the top of me. They're just right. They're so much fun to play with and stuff. So just everything really about them, is all good.
Very good. Yeah, I agree. They're just incredible animals. Very smart. A lot of personality. Fun to interact with.
Definitely. Yeah. All
right. Well, if anybody wants to learn more about your farm operation, where can they find you online?
Well, we're on Facebook at Coyote Creek Ranch. We're on Instagram, same thing there. And then our Graze Cart website, like you said. We're going to take that and hopefully integrate it where it's more of a farm website with our boar stud and our bloodlines and the dairy goat bloodlines and stuff like that as well, instead of just a shopping cart type website. But it's a start anyhow, so they can find the three of us there. Or, they're always more than welcome to, like I said, come out and tour the farm and see what we do and milk goats and play with baby pigs. So
awesome. Well, good deal. Well, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me tonight. I enjoyed our conversation, and I pray you have a good week on the farm.
Sounds good. You too.
All right. Well, take care. All right. Well, I hope everybody appreciated that. And if you want to know more about Chris and what he's got going on at Coyote Creek Ranch, I'll post details in the show notes, and you all can check that out. Well, I pray everyone has a great week out in the pasture, and you don't get covered up with all the snow we're supposed to get, those of you in the northern climates. All right. Take care.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. To learn more about our podcast, or to submit topics or recommend guests for future episodes, visit redtoolhouse.com.